What's good, YouTube fam? It's your boy Tony, aka Descendant of Chaos and Controversy, and this might most definitely piss a lot of people off. Okay, and I'm gonna make this analogy before I dive right into making my point. Okay, because I want to discuss this because I'm gonna start off saying that a lot of what takes place in this country, especially when it comes to certain topics that cause a lot of conflict and controversy, has a lot of layers like onions. And it's funny how I can see when it comes to like the onion analogy that people could take the parts that is inconvenient for them to use and just toss that to the side, and what's of value and of use they keep and apply it to their narrative. Okay? Now, I'm going to throw this out there. Say there's a school, right? Okay? And you got the student body, you got the teachers, the faculty, and you got the counselors, and you got the deans or the principals or what have you. Okay? And you have it where you have a group of bullies that target another group of kids. And say this has been going on throughout high school, okay? So throughout the freshman year, you had the bullies targeting and terrorizing and antagonizing these group of kids during the freshman year. Come sophomore year, same thing. And nobody says nothing. The students don't say nothing. They don't come to the aid or the rescue or interject and confront the bullies and say, hey, stop. Leave these people alone. Stop bullying them. Nah, teachers allow it to go on. The faculty, the counselors, the principal, they don't do nothing. And then you have the junior year, same thing. Nobody steps in, nobody says nothing. So finally you get to the senior year, okay? By this time, these kids that's been pushed to the limit have said, fuck this, we've had enough. And they push back against the bullies. They take a stand. Now all of a sudden, people are attacking the people that were being victimized, that were being bullied, and standing with the bullies. The teachers coming to the aids of the bullies say, hey, why are you guys fighting? Oh, no, you're getting suspended. These are the repercussions that's being put on you. The counselors, the other students and stuff like that. It's like, wait a minute, where were you co-signing, condoning what they were doing to us, not saying anything, but as soon as we stand up for ourselves, you guys have a problem with it. I don't get it. Help us understand. No, we're not offering any kind of explanation. You just do what you're told. You stay in your lane. You know what? Here's your consequences. Deal with it. Whatever. We'll go talk to the bullies. Oh, you're just gonna talk to the bullies, but you're gonna penalize us for taking a stand? Okay, all right. I see how this game is being played. Okay. You understand that, right? I'm sure it has a familiar context to it. Mm-hmm. Now, where I'm trying to find the understanding is where you know that there's a history that's went on in this country when it came to one group of people versus another group of people, okay? And everyone else was just silent, stood by, silently, stood idly by, not saying or interjecting and not whatever. You had these people that were in key positions, succeeded in making laws, were part of the justice system, okay? So where would the people who were being targeted stood a chance either outside of the court system to where they were put into the court system, the justice system, or should I say the injustice system. Okay. Now, before I go any further, um, I noticed there's this big old debate and argument and pushback. And the thing that's being thrown around, and I brought it up in other videos, was about the CRT. Okay. And what people present to everybody, their take of what it is. Okay. But then when asked the question, they can't really tell you in detail the definition of what CRT stands for and what it's about. But they'll try to throw in, oh, but Black Lives Matter. But we're over the Black Lives Matter shit. You can't bring that up as a crutch no more. Black Lives Matter has already been exposed. That has nothing to do with critical race theory right now. Okay? And like I tell people, please, before you jump the gun and say, hey, this is what this is and this is what we're against, know what the fuck it is first before you start to criticize something. Because I'm going to say this in fairness. If you're so worried about what your kids are being taught, and certain things I do agree with them on, what they're trying to condition our kids or subject them to, I believe that should be in the later development of our children's years to when they're like in their late teens to adulthood. Okay? And that's where I stand on it. But when it comes to learning something about the history of this country that has been watered down, some of the details have been construed. As they say, you know, the winners are the ones that write history, right? You hear that thrown around, right? But then even if you are the winners and you're the ones that have the responsibility of writing down what benefits the narrative to what you want to be taught. Because don't get me started on what version of history was put in the curriculum for the schools to teach and who it had to get approved by. Okay? And why there's only certain things thrown here and there. And then people want to sit there and mock Black History Month, right? And I'm saying, well, if you want to go there and say, I'm against critical, then say, okay, you know what? I'll give you this. Apply it to Black History Month. Everything that you want to teach, apply it to Black History Month. And even if it doesn't get pushed through, then okay, then it's an option when people, and this is nothing that new that's been put on the table. This has been brought up like I believe 50, 60 years ago. But now, and I'm gonna agree with what a lot of people say. Now it's the boogeyman. Now it's the propaganda being pushed. And I'm saying, well, for some time, and this is where I'm gonna be the antagonist, and this is where I'm gonna play the devil's advocate. For some time, it was acceptable for there to be anti-Black, right? There were laws put into play. What we were learning, nothing about us, nothing about the history that has to do with us, because you'll have people now that sit there and say, that didn't happen, and they're Black. But that's also doing a disservice to the people who have lived through certain times, who have experienced what they have experienced. Now you're going to try and sit there and say that can't be validated? You want to be dismissive of what people went through in the past? I'll give you this. If you feel how you feel about the present and say, you know what, I don't agree with what's going on in the present, then okay, stand on that. But don't go and try to dismantle what went on in the past and make excuses for those that were in the wrong to justify why they did what they did, just so you could sit comfortable here. Because it took people having to go through what they had to go through to make your position what it is today. Don't take for granted that. Because people didn't die. People didn't shed their blood. People didn't make the sacrifices that they did for you to be dismissive of what the fuck they went through. That's distasteful, and that's being arrogant, and fuck you for all that matters. Feel how you want to feel. Because there's certain things that I'm sitting here that the more I learn about certain things that went on in this country that I haven't been taught. And who played their part in what, I'm utterly disgusted by it. Like, it was one thing for Brandon Tatum to go, and I'm going to bring this up, for him to try to rewrite history to fit his own narrative when it came to fucking the Tulsa massacre, the bombing of Wall Street. And then you have people who lived through that time that are survivors now. They could tell you firsthand what went on, what they've experienced. There was a 97-year-old, or is she older, black woman that they had brought into court that was talking about it, sharing her grievances about what went on. These people pillaged the community, bombed it, burned it, terrorized these people based on I'm sad to say, sorry to say, but not really, little white lie. The same thing that happened with Emmett Till, the same thing that happened in Rosewood. Now, skipping past that, I said, that's messed up in itself that someone would actually sanction bombing a community. Is it surprising? No, because you already knew what time you was living in. But then you get to the 1980s, and I just came across this, and my sister brought it up, because we was talking about that documentary that Wesley Snipes did. Damn, something about the what? Hey, I can't remember right away, but a lot of people alluded to that's the reason why they got him for tax evasion and stuff like that. That's speculation. That's neither here or there. I can't say if that's true or not, but it was mighty convenient that when he came out with that documentary, you know. But for those who know what I'm talking about, you know. But I just recently learned about the bombing that took place in Philadelphia back in 1984, 85 or so. And you had these black activists. That formed an organization called Move, and they created this organization to preserve life, because they were being targeted and terrorized by what you call law enforcement in Philadelphia. And then you had this black mayor that said, okay, you know what? He was in support of this organization, and he said, you know what? He said, I understand if you elect me as being mayor, I'm gonna do my part in supporting you and helping you solve this problem. Well, it just so happens that this mayor, who was black, gave the okay for the housing. Now, it was a housing complex. And now, if you are in violation of, because what it was said was that there was too many people residing in this housing complex. It violated the housing code policy or ordinance or whatever the case may be. So, you mean to tell me that the solution that you saw fit to not like remove these people was to bomb it that killed 4 kids, other adults, and then you had a firing squad that was placed strategically. So when these people that were escaping, that I guess survived the blast, you were targeting them through the alley, picking them off, killing the kids. So you mean to tell me that the U.S. utilized law enforcement as mercenaries now? And then you turned around and prosecuted those in the movement, giving them 100 years, and the son, the last name was Africa. I can't remember his first name, but the last name was Africa. Um, and I know many people are gonna sit there and joke about it, but it's not a laughing matter. The bones of the kids were taken and put in a museum to be studied, museum I believe to be studied, and the parents are fighting against that. There was 4 mothers that were talking about their kids that got killed that day, and I feel for them, because if a government or a government agency or entity can do this to a community, what does that say about this country and the tolerance? See, and I didn't learn about that until just recently. You can look it up. As a matter of fact, I am definitely going to put a link in the comment section about talking about it too. There's probably going to be quite a few links in there, because I want people to see what I'm talking about. You know, um, and how do you excuse that? Now people talk about well, they were cited as being a terrorist organization. Here's the thing that I want people to understand. Okay, you got a lot of people talking about if you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, or if you organize a community, or this, that, and everything else, or whatever. And I hear the arguments because there are a lot of condescending rebuttals. But here's the problem I have: you don't necessarily believe that, because when you have Louis Farrakhan and the Nation of Islam being mostly a separatist group, you know, you have people talking about how they were racist. But how can you in one breath say, well, black people need to go back to Africa? Okay, you got that kind of rhetoric that comes out of people's mouth. Or if you don't whatever, then separate yourself from this. But then when people do that, then you want to flip the script and then make a complaint about it. You suggested it, but then you complain about it. Okay, just like with the family not too long ago that bought all these acres of land, I think in Georgia or something like that, and trying to build a community for black folks to come together and thrive and stuff like that. Who had a problem with that? But you don't say nothing. You don't say nothing. You remain conveniently quiet when you have these other areas that is majority white, members only. You can't be a part of this community. Oh, that's still practice. Don't let these let's all get along type of folks fool you. They still exist. Some of these sundown towns still exist. But the problem is if we practice what people suggest, getting our shit together, unifying, instead of practicing division, especially within the black community. If we stop doing criminal acts, engaging in criminal activity, if we stop being addicts, if we stop poisoning our own community by selling drugs and stuff like that, if we stop entertaining alcohol, gambling, and anything else that's known to be destructive factors in the black community, and we became righteous, so to speak, what do you think would happen? especially if we all congregated in one area in this country, what do you think would happen? I'm asking an honest fucking question. What do you think would happen? Given the examples of what happened in Tulsa, given examples of what happened in Rosewood, given examples of what happened in Philadelphia, what do you think honestly would happen? Because even recently we're given examples of people trying to do something for their community and for their people. They're already being criticized because now it's like, oh, you're anti-white, you're anti-this, you're anti-that. But when white people do things that's solely for white people and white people only, we gotta accept it, right? And this is what I'm taking notice of. Because people would lead you to believe that that's not true. Yes, it is true. Yes, it is true. Now, does that happen in every area here in this country? No. No, it doesn't. But is there a validation in what I said? Yes, absolutely. Is it conveniently discarded, conveniently ignored, conveniently not talked about? Yes. Why? Why do you think? I mean, a lot of things in theory sounds good. A lot of suggestions that people present, 9 times out of 10 is taken into consideration, but applied, um, there's a little hesitation behind that because we've seen what happened throughout history when we tried to unify and how we've gotten dismantled. You've seen what happened with the Black Panther Party, how they try to dress that group as being a terrorist organization. But then when you go to look up the information, do the research, read up on, right? You know that the Black Panther Party was just a group of black people that stood against the police, law enforcement, who was terrorizing the black community. Okay? And a lot of these groups that come up take a stand against police to protect their own against an outside entity. So, like, I find it funny when you hear certain people say, well, why don't black people become police officers? So that way they can police their own community. Well, when you have people that try to look after their own community, look what happens. You got outside agencies coming in, just executing them. Because the Black Panther Party, what do they do? Provided education, provided health care, provided hot meals, provided daycare and stuff like that, looking after the kids while the parents went to go to work. There was a lot of things they had put in place, building a stable foundation, some kind of structure, so that we can function without any help from the outside. They said, you know what, we're going to do it ourselves, but that wasn't acceptable. So, they have to make you look like the bad guy in order to justify them coming in and taking whatever course of action that they do, and then they present it as this is it. But people support these agencies. Tony, you sound pro-black now. I'm not. What it is that when people sit there and argue against, no, if they said this, it has to be true. If it was written down in the history books, it has to be true. But what version are you taking and giving credit to versus what is actual facts? because we see that the media can't be honest with us in the present. Forget about what how they twisted shit in the past. And even the son who was talking about he said there was only one journalist that had credibility that actually spoke the truth. But what happened to him? He was targeted. So it makes me wonder, and this is why I don't get when it comes to people. If you notice a pattern of certain things, like I give if I'm telling you something that I know to be true, right? And later down the line something happens to me. But if you want to discredit me by what I'm saying, why would you have to fucking take me out if I wasn't telling the truth? See, people don't want honesty, honestly. They want a watered down, sugar coated, half assed, half truths. What fits their narrative, versus what doesn't, and what makes them feel comfortable, so to speak. I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. Like I said, I'm here to challenge people. Okay. Um, but basically, where why this conversation has come about, because people have come at me in other under other platforms with the name callings and stuff like that, and asked me where I stood. I said I stand on a side that's right. I don't entertain nonsense, so to speak. And if there's validation, I'm gonna speak on it. Other people don't want to touch upon it because other people feel that, like, if you speak up for a group of people, then you're practicing division. If you speak up for those who can't speak for themselves, you're a racist. But when you see that it's okay for other people to do shit and nobody say anything to them, you have to sit back and say, well, why is it acceptable for other people to say fucking certain shit? But then when you go to speak your piece or say something that you know to be true, that has validations, that you can point out certain references, that you can go look for yourself, you're wrong. Or they're calling you this, or they're labeling you this, or labeling you that, or whatever the case may be. And then you gotta wonder why is there so much animosity? Why is there so much pushback? Why are people trying to deflect from? Why are people being so dismissive of? But then people say, we're not this, we're not that. But you could have fooled me because, okay, case in point. If a white person was to come up to me and say, Tony, that they teaching you in history or what they have taught you in history ain't isn't accurate. I'll be like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, did you know that such and so and whatever, these people that they paint a certain picture out and make them out to be this way or that way? Let me tell you the truth about this person. And it's a white person telling me this, right? So I'd be like, nah. Because what they taught me in school is like, okay, what they are allowed to teach versus what they are not allowed to teach, you have to question. Because it's funny how if you ask a well, I can't say kids nowadays, but if you were to ask black people about their history, many of them either don't want to know, don't care to know, or just wasn't taught. Okay? And it's a problem where And I'll put it this way: it's a problem, and only when you have these people who are black that don't care to know about their history, but want to argue about against those who are educated about their history. When they present to you facts, but you know nothing, you only go by what somebody told you, or you don't want to upset certain people, or you don't want certain people looking at you this particular way because you are aware of, then you have to be like, well, and I say to those people, if you choose not to educate yourself, if you choose to be unaware, if you choose to be dismissive of, then keep your mouth shut. When other people have a right to talk, don't try to silence them if what they are saying is true. Don't try to be the mouthpiece for other people if you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Now, I'm gonna make a video, and there's gonna be a part two to me getting or siding with white folks on certain issues. I didn't really dig in anybody's ass with this video, but there's also a flip side to the coin, okay? Because there's a lot of misrepresentation when it comes to the overall perspective of Caucasians, white folks here in this country. That's also misleading. But when I do that video, I want to be structured in my argument, because that too will piss a lot of people off. Okay? But that's all I got. Until next time, until next video, please like, share, and subscribe. Peace.